Today is Thursday, May 14th, 2026, and this is Read Through the Bible.
And this is another time of Q&A.
Right.
We have seen in 1 Corinthians chapters 1 through 6 our problems and solutions. And now in chapters 7 through 16 are questions and answers.
Verse 1. Am I not free? Am I not an apostle? Have I not seen Jesus our Lord? Are not you my workmanship in the Lord? A lot of rhetorical questions there that maybe are getting at some accusations they've made of him. Mm-hmm. Okay, verse 2. If to others I am not an apostle, at least I am to you, for you are the seal of my apostleship in the Lord.
This is my defense to those who would examine me. Do we not have the right to eat and drink? Do we not have the right to take along a believing wife, as do the other apostles and the brothers of the Lord and Cephas? Or is it only Barnabas and I who have no right to refrain from working for a living? Who serves as a soldier at his own expense? Who plants a vineyard without eating of its fruit? Or who tends a flock without getting some of its milk?
Do I say these things on human authority? Does not the law say the same? For it is written in the law of Moses, you shall not muzzle an ox when it treads out the grain. Is it for oxen that God is concerned? Does he not certainly speak for our sake? It was written for our sake, because the plowman should plow in hope, and the thresher thresh in hope of sharing in the crop. If we have sown spiritual things among you, is it too much if we reap material things from you?
I just got to catch that. This is the idea of funding ministries, is that if people are imparting to you and helping you with spiritual things, it's only right to help them with material things so as to free them up to continue to sow those spiritual things into your lives. And that's exactly what it talked about in verse 6, about Barnabas and I have a right to refrain from working for a living. So when you go back to Acts and you see in chapter 18 of Acts, that's when the church was planted in Corinth, and Timothy and Silas arrived from Macedonia, and it was there that then these two men funded Paul and supported him financially, physically, so that he could
refrain from working for a living and be able to focus on ministry.
Yes.
Right.
Yep. And so just that's how it works. So just to encourage you all to be givers to those who are encouraging you and helping you in spiritual things. Verse 12.
Okay. If others share this rightful claim on you, do not we even more?
Nevertheless, we have not made use of this right. In other words, right, it was Silas and Timothy who were supporting Paul totally, not the Corinthian church, because they were able to do that. We have not made use of this right, but we endure anything rather than put an obstacle in the way of the gospel of Christ. Do you not know that those who are employed in the temple service get their food from the temple, and those who serve at the altar share in the sacrificial offerings? In the same way, the Lord commanded that those who proclaim the gospel should get their living by the gospel.
But I have made no use of any of these rights, nor am I writing these things to secure any such provision. For I would rather die than have anyone deprive me of my ground for boasting. For if I preach the gospel, that gives me no ground for boasting. For necessity is laid upon me. He says, I can't not preach the gospel.
That's right.
He's compelled. Woe to me if I do not preach the gospel. For if I do this of my own will, I have a reward. But if not of my own will, I am still entrusted with a stewardship. What then is my reward? That in my preaching I may present the gospel free of charge, so as not to make full use of my right in the gospel.
Yeah, and one of the things the Corinthians charged Paul with was just greed and just how he did it for his own gain. And he's basically saying here, I didn't require anything from you. It's totally free, just like the gospel, just a picture of what the gospel is. For though I am free from all, I've made myself a servant to all, that I might win more of them. To the Jews I became a Jew in order to win the Jews, and to those under the law I became as one under the law, though not being myself under the law, that I might win those under the law. To those outside the law I became as one outside the law, not being outside the law of God, but under the law of Christ, that I might win those outside the law. To the weak I became weak, that I might win the weak, and I have become all things to all people, that by all means I might save some. I do it all for the sake of the gospel, that I may share with them in its blessings.
Do you not know that in a race all the runners run, but only one receives the prize? So run, that you may obtain it. Every athlete exercises self-control in all things. They do it to receive a perishable wreath, but we an imperishable. So I do not run aimlessly. I do not box as one beating the air, but I discipline my body and keep it under control, lest, after preaching to others, I myself should be disqualified.
Okay, so looking at a summary of that chapter, just Paul is talking about how free he is. But it's important you don't muzzle the ox. That is, those preaching, you support them. Those who preach the gospel should get their living by the gospel, is what's being talked about. And Paul was boasting that he preached for free, and just talking about how he bent his own lifestyle, becoming a servant to all, that he might win them for the gospel.
But it does seem, verse 3 says, this is my defense to those who would examine me. It does seem like he's defending himself.
Yes.
Very much here. And probably being accused of being greedy and gaining money from his position in ministry.
Yeah, so if you're looking for a good summary statement, verse 3 would be good. He's defending himself in his ministry. Okay, and then in chapter 10, food sacrificed to idols, we're going to talk about just flat out idolatry here. For I do not want you to be unaware, brothers, that our fathers were all under the cloud and all passed through the sea. So that's a reference back to the Exodus from Egypt, about passing through the Red Sea when Moses lifted up his staff and the sea split in half, and all of Israel passed through that. Then they're under the cloud, meaning they just followed the cloud by day in terms of where God would have them in the wilderness. But just all Israel was all together. And all were baptized into Moses in the cloud and in the sea, and all ate the same spiritual food. Let's talk about manna, Numbers chapter 16. And all drank the same spiritual drink, that is the water that came out of the rock. For they drank from the spiritual rock that followed them, and the rock was Christ. Nevertheless, with most of them God was not pleased, for they were overthrown in the wilderness. And the people overthrown in the wilderness was everybody under 20 years of old, except for Joshua and Caleb at the time when the people were unbelieving in Kadesh Barnea, Numbers chapter 13 and 14. When God said, take this land, they spied it out and said, oh, the people are too big, the cities are fortified, we can't take it out. And so God said, nope, you're an unbelieving people, and with most of them, everybody except Joshua and Caleb and people under 20.
Yeah, and I think here's the point, verse 6. Now these things took place as examples for us, that we might not desire evil as they did.
Yep.
I think that's why he's bringing up all this history.
Yeah, he's going to bring up again in verse 11.
Right, as an example. Do not be idolaters, as some of them were. As it is written, the people sat down to eat and drink and rose up to play.
That's a reference from Exodus 32 when Aaron built the golden calf. Yes.
Yeah. We must not indulge in sexual immorality, as some of them did, and 23,000 fell in a single day.
Yeah, it has reference back to Numbers chapter 25.
And Phineas.
And Phineas when he stopped the plague with his own zeal.
Verse 9, we must not put Christ to the test, as some of them did, and were destroyed by serpents.
Yes.
Numbers 21.
Yeah, talking about the Nehushtan.
The bronze serpent.
The bronze serpent, yep. Mm-hmm.
Verse 10, nor grumble as some of them did, and were destroyed by the destroyer.
Yeah, and that has too many chapters to
That happens
count.
a lot.
Yeah, Numbers 11, Numbers 12, Numbers 16, 26. Like Israel was always complaining in the wilderness.
Verse 11.
But
now,
here's the point. Just like verse 6.
Now these things happened to them as an example, but they were written down for our instruction, on whom the end of the ages has come.
That means that just we not to be idolaters or immoral or testing God or grumbling or complaining like they did.
Okay, and continuing on here, verse 12, therefore, those things happened to them as an example for us. Therefore, let anyone who thinks he stands take heed lest he fall. No temptation has overtaken you that is not common to man. God is faithful, and he will not let you be tempted beyond your ability. But with the temptation, he will also provide the way of escape, that you may be able to endure it.
Therefore, this is the conclusion, my beloved, flee from idolatry. And this goes back to chapter 8, verse 1, concerning food sacrificed to idols. He's talking about just idols in general. I speak as to sensible people. Judge for yourselves what I say. The cup of blessing that we bless, is it not a participation in the blood of Christ? And the bread that we break, is it not a participation in the body of Christ? Because there's one head, and we who are many are one body, for we all partake of the one bread. Consider the people of Israel. Are we not those who eat the sacrifices participants in the altar? What do I imply then? That food offered to idols is anything, or that an idol is anything? No. I imply that what pagans sacrifice, they offer to demons and not to God. I do not want you to be participants with demons. You cannot drink the cup of the Lord and the cup of demons. You cannot partake of the table of the Lord and the table of demons. Shall we provoke the Lord to jealousy? Are we stronger than he?
Well, it sounds like then that you should not eat food sacrificed to idols.
That's what it sounds like, yep. Even though he said earlier an idol is nothing.
It's okay, right. Verse 23, all things are lawful, but not all things are helpful. All things are lawful, but not all things build up. Let no one seek his own good, but the good of his neighbor.
And that's really, he's continuing on
right.
here.
Eat whatever is sold in the meat markets without raising any question on the ground of conscience. For the earth is the Lord's and the fullness thereof. If one of the unbelievers invites you to dinner and you are disposed to go, eat whatever is set before you without raising any question on the ground of conscience. But if someone says to you, this has been offered in sacrifice, then do not eat it, for the sake of the one who informed you, and for the sake of conscience. I do not mean your conscience, but his. For why should my liberty be determined by someone else's conscience? If I partake with thankfulness, why am I denounced because of that for which I give thanks?
Yeah, don't ask, don't tell, right? Just don't ask about it. Just go ahead and eat it.
Better not to know.
Yeah, but if you know, then you need to really think about what the proper action is there. Okay, verse 31. So then, whether you eat or drink or whatever you do, do all to the glory of God. Give no offense to Jews or to Greeks or to the church of God. And that's very difficult because sometimes your action gives offense to both.
Right, or to one and not the other.
Just as I try to please everyone in everything I do, not seeking my own advantage, but that of many, that they may be saved. It all has to do with evangelism at the core, to be a model for other people. They might not stumble over you. So, chapter 10, God wasn't pleased with Israel as an example. I know what's being talked about there. Mm-hmm. He says, flee from idolatry and do all to the glory of God.
And those things happened as an example for us.
Yes. Okay, so we will continue on tomorrow. Bye-bye.
Goodbye.